We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we're focused on Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 2, Penance. Toddy, you're here to pay your penance, I see.
Wow.
It's so nice we talk almost every day, but it's so nice to see you on the screen.
I'm back
and
on a Starfleet Boy discussion.
On a Starfleet Boy discussion,
It's
yes.
been, what, months at this point?
Yeah, you're busy. Your new assignment on the Stargazer. You've been doing that for a bit, so we understand. But by the way, I'm on the bridge of the. You see what we've upgraded our game here on Starfleet Boy. See,
You're looking fancy.
Fancy AF. It's true. And then so welcome back.
He's got the new com badge. He's got the Picard the family emblem there. He's on the Stargazer Bridge. You're a shill. You're a shill.
Is that what doesn't a shill get paid? I'm paying them. Like it's the other way around. I know. It's like I feel like
the anti-shill.
I'm like I bleed for Star Trek. It's like all my disposable income, which is not that much, goes right into Star Trek. And we also have a first. We usually see our Dadmiral on our TOS discussions, and so I think maybe you've been on. Have you ever been on one of the New Trek shows? No. What a treat! I'm so.
This is a first.
Yeah, I'm so glad we moved the discussion on Sunday because Thursdays were too soon. I didn't have enough time to just think about it. Plus, we were doing Disco and Picard, and I'm glad we did because that means we can be treated to more UK friends. Because unfortunately, Star Trek does not come out everywhere at the same time. It's a struggle that fans have been dealing with for a long, long time. But maybe one day we'll have a unification of time zones or unification of some sorts, and like UK fans won't feel like second citizens. Maybe it's the same day.
At least with Discovery and Picard, we get to see it.
Yeah, it's true.
That's one thing.
That's the other thing. You guys don't get all the shows.
Legally, we get to see it. Yeah.
Hopefully soon, Paramount Plus will fix all of that stuff. But also, I just want to say maybe that day will come when Doctor Who also releases episodes at the same time in the United States as they do in the UK. Because when it comes to Doctor Who, I'm on the other side of the that feeling of waiting and having to hear everyone talk about it. So it's cool. And I'm so happy we're joined again by Marcelo. Marcelo, welcome. How are you?
Good. Oh, Captain, my captain. How are you?
Oh, you're a captain too, so I guess it's our captain. And we've got quite a few folks. We may have another guest popping in at some point. He's my cat's letting me know he wants to leave outside. He wants to go outside, so I'll let him do that in a second. But before we go that route, I just want to say thank you to the audience who's here as well. It looks like folks are ready to get their penance as well. Hello, Joel. Nice to see you. Ready to get your penance. Oh, look, here's Robbie. Oh,
in.
I don't know what's going on though, but all right. While we wait for Robbie to apparate or appear, there he is. Hello, Robbie. Can you? I don't know if you can hear us. All right. Sometimes Starfleet Boy's not as, we're casual and informal. We're not as professional as Text Trek, which shout out to Father who's in the audience there.
Of course he is. He's always here. He never leaves.
There. Yeah.
We
don't want him to leave. We don't want our father to leave, so it's good that he's there in the audience.
We have a cot for him.
We also have Jill here. Nice to see you. Fun will commence. Cake is eternal. Blue. Good to see everyone in the audience. Braxton's here too. Oh my gosh, this is such a friendly, cool.
So many people watching these things.
Yeah, I know. They're here for you, Toddy. Like this is a big deal. Like everyone's here for you.
I feel like your audience has grown since I've not been on. That's what's happened.
Earl Grey Trekkie, give us a little quick mic check, will ya?
Yo,
there we go. That's it. We can hear you now. That's perfect. So let's get started.
I'm just going to change my mic because apparently Braxton can't hear me.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's because I have the volume so loud that I can hear you. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and do that, that's fine. So, guys, let's get started with the discussion. This is a little bit different. I do some tiny kind of pre-written Starfleet Boy pieces, and then we'll go right into the discussion. So, Q is back. We began this episode with an establishing shot of an Earth that is meant to be the heart of a destructive, sick, and brutal empire. Yet what we see is an Earth that is scarred beyond repair, an Earth whose resources have been plundered. Earth is a corpse on life support. We have seen Q get serious before, but this is a new level. Q quickly sets the stage or the board for us, and Jean-Luc indicating that ooh, my cat's biting me now. All right, sorry. While I let him out, hold on, everyone say hello to, whoops. I'm dropping my mic everywhere. This is the worst. It's a disaster. But this is Arthur. This is my kitty. Toddy, tell us what you thought of seeing this road not taken Earth while I go let Arthur out so that he can stop biting me.
Do I have to specifically talk about? Okay, well, he's gone. I quite enjoyed this episode. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't have the highest, or at least not as high hopes as our friend Starfleet Boy did going into this season, because I felt like season 1 was maybe a little, I guess, flippy floppy here. And episode 1 was a bit bizarre, though I do accept that they were setting things up. Here, though, seeing this world that I guess embodies the road not taken, it's like the end of the road not taken. I think it was actually pretty interesting. It's not quite a mirror universe. It's like mirror universe adjacent, I guess, or a style of mirror universe. But I enjoyed it. I think it was pretty good as like an episode, the way it was written, the way it was, I guess, delivered. But I also think that the general vibe and aesthetic of this kind of alternate reality better suits the way that our contemporary writers like to execute their shows. I think it suits them better than like the traditional kind of, I guess, the default TNG, like paradise, everything is perfect kind of world that we kind of, I guess, associate Star Trek with. I think this suits the stories they want to tell better. I don't know if you heard any of that, Starfleet Boy.
I did. I was able to hear, but I had to make sure also the kitty
those are my opening thoughts, I guess.
No, excellent. I love everyone's laughing at the cat incident. He was biting me. He never bites me. It was really like interesting. It was like a cute little tickle bite though, so that was fine. Unlike Q's bite.
You're on the bridge of the Stargates, with them.
No, it's true. What about you and Marcelo? Earl Grey Trekkie, what'd you think?
I'm just wondering where your crew is. You have such a big space behind you. No, I thought this was a great episode. I think I'm glad we're leaving this totalitarian nightmare, because if it had went on for maybe another episode, I think I would be sick of it. Not because the writing is boring or anything, just because it's very tried and tested.
It's a bit bleak. It's a bit bleak too, right? Like, we don't tune in necessarily for Star Trek to see, I guess, season-long mirror universe or mirror universe adjacent stories, I guess.
Yeah, and TNG is famous for never having done a mirror universe episode, and
this is an honorary one.
This is kind of like an which is again a road not taken for TNG, so I guess it kind of feels apropos that they would do this thing. But we do find out, of course, that this is not another universe. This is the prime timeline, and what has happened is that a change has been made in the past, and that has changed the outcomes of the future. So what they actually have to do is go back and repair the damage and kind of fix it. So that's interesting too. It's not a parallel world. There's not we're not going to see mirror versions. We're not going to see. We are seeing mirror versions, but it's just not a mirror universe. It's like it's an alternate timeline, I guess, if you will. I don't know, Toddy. You're better at all that. You're the timeline. You're my timeline guy.
Okay, well, this is, they called it, what did they call it in the episode? Not an incursion. They called it something else.
A divergence, I believe.
I don't think so. It was a word that I haven't heard before. The way they called it. But I'm gonna call this a temporal I'm going to assume that by the end of the season, they restore time. I'm going to assume, And I'm also going to assume this is not a tapestry type thing. This is not Q doing an illusion or something. So I'm going to assume this is really a time shenanigan. And based off that, I'm going to say it's a temporal incursion because basically, like, the timeline splits, but they will fix it so that it comes back to how it was, before we left off. And so it'll create like a little time incursion in the timeline. So I don't have to adjust my timeline. But the incursion still exists for people like Agent Daniels, because he can travel to all of these little incursions. He can still go to that. Does that make sense?
I don't know.
I'm trying.
Yeah,
Someone tell me this.
It sounded good. Who gives a damn?
It sounded good. Yeah, it was
sounded
good tech. It was really good techno babble. Marcelo, you've already shared your thoughts about this episode on our space the other day. But is there anything more that you've thought about or that you'd like to share before we get into it?
No, just really quickly, I love the writing of this episode, much like I love the writing from episode 1. But my favorite thing about this episode was seeing Annika as the president of this bad universe. And the fact that she chose, or the other version of her unconsciously chose, such a mouthy boy for her husband, cracks the shit up out of me. And I can't wait till she smacks him around, hopefully a little bit before they leave, I hope. But my favorite scene was seeing Q just lose his crap and smack the shit out of Picard.
He doesn't mind it when Q does it.
No. See, I do.
Marcelo, this is Jean-Luc. You stop it with this disrespect business. I feel very respected.
See, I do. Look. I do acknowledge that I have a double standard because I hate people disrespecting Jean-Luc who happen to be in Starfleet. But the fact that Q did it, I'm a little bit easier on Q because I like Q and I don't like Clancy. So I didn't like Clancy at all. So I'm a little bit easier on Q, I guess.
This is definitely a totally different.
Though.
Yeah, I know.
He's part of the Q continuum, whereas Clancy is like she's supposedly a respected Starfleet officer.
Yeah. Anyways, let's not get too carried away. I was merely joking.
It's fine. It's fine.
But what did you? So seeing John Delancey and Patrick Stewart back in action together, that to me was like a treat on so many levels. I mean, like the scene's really really good, but also just the way that Stewart and Delancey were playing off of each other was like I think the best they've done. Like it elevated all their past kind of interactions and yeah, exactly that slap scene was something we've never seen Q get like this ever, and also just like the reveal that there might be something going on with Q that's not quite right, like that he's a little off. What did you all think about that, Robbie?
I don't think the episode necessarily benefited from having Q and Picard at the very beginning, because for me those maybe first 10 minutes with Q and Picard were perfection, and then the rest of the episode was still brilliant, but it just didn't match the chemistry that was in those scenes. So I thought, oh no, am I not going to like this episode as much because I loved those first 10 minutes, and I thought 15 minutes in, this is kind of stuff we've seen before almost. But then I came around to the episode and I loved it, and I thought it was interesting seeing everyone adapt to this new setting. I thought that it was interesting that John Delancey, his performance is more aggressive. It does add something. It's an interesting take to make Q more hostile, and hopefully find out why that is. But you just get a sense that they have such a bond going all the way back that Picard can sense something is deeply wrong with him.
Yeah, that's really well put. How about you, Sean? What did you think of their reunion, if you will?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed their scenes very, very much, and I think that Sir Patrick Stewart's performances were at their best when he was with John Delancey. I think they both bounced off each other and managed to really bring out the best of each other in terms of performances. I quite enjoyed seeing the characters again. And I mean, the only small maybe thing that I would have to say is that I wouldn't necessarily have picked up on Q being unwell if they hadn't have said it in the dialogue specifically.
Really?
Yes, he is a bit more agitated,
Yeah, yeah.
but in the same way, like we're expected to believe, and it's been defended multiple times that Picard is different because it's been 20 years, and there doesn't need to be like any justification. It's just like people change, people are different. I would have read it the same way. Like Q is just, I guess he's a bit more agitated in this situation, or maybe he's a bit more angry. I wouldn't have guessed that he's
Well,
unwell
it feels
if
like
they
the
hadn't
stakes.
said it.
He's like there's something off about him for sure because it feels like the stakes are higher. And I think in that scene, I actually wrote this down, which is he goes, "You want me to cut to the chase? Well, the chase is cut, Picard. The chase is bleeding. The chase is dying in your arms, and I'm but a suture in the wound." And he just like looks so like he looks so like he looks kind of like perturbed, and he kind of pauses and he like steps back for a moment. And I think that acting is what prompted Jean-Luc to ask, like, to be like, "Oh, whoa, this is not like how interactions with Q usually go." And you're right, he does have the right to change, but he's changed in a way that's almost like, it's very new to
Well,
Jean-Luc.
it's
I think.
difficult for me to guess or interpret with like this modern Star Trek. See, there's such a standard that is set with like the TNG Voyage Deep Space Nine that when a character acts differently, you immediately know. But with this modern Star Trek, I don't know if it's intentional or if it's because they're right. Like I don't I don't know what the intent is behind the way they're writing the story or who's writing the story, how much knowledge they have of the character. You know what I mean? So it's more difficult for me to interpret what's happening on screen when it happens. Like it could be just that, like, because the Borg Queen from the first episode is bullshit to me. That's just complete garbage. And I couldn't tell you if it's because they want to reinvent or just they want to do their own take, it's out of ego, or if it's because there's an actual justification or like a reason to why the Borg has changed, the Borg Queen has changed. And if it were the same team writing from like TNG, Deep Space Nine, then I would be like, okay, I can see that there's a difference. It's done on purpose. Whereas here, I don't know if it's like done on purpose or if it's like, I don't want to say a mistake, but it's just harder for me to read, I guess, what the intent is behind specific scenes.
I'm the Borg Queen. I can tell you later offline what was going on in that scene. I'll fill you. No, I'm just kidding. I am gonna try to cosplay as the Borg Queen at Chicago.
Oh,
By the way,
really?
yeah, I totally am. Ian, welcome back. Any thoughts on Delancey and Stewart getting back together and the whole interaction between Jean-Luc and Q?
Lancy was in it. If I watched the wrong episode, no, sorry, no, no. It was. I was listening to what Sean was saying, and I had. It wasn't until the second time I watched it that I was starting to get the nuances. I was very much the same when I first watched it. I was very much that I didn't get that he wasn't so ill, and when he struck Picard, that my jaw dropped to the floor. But it wasn't until the second time of seeing it that I really did start picking up the nuances. So yeah, maybe because Sean and I are not American, that we're not picking that up.
Well,
Yeah,
Jill
it
points
was.
out here that Q looked terrible, bloodshot eyes, and he looked like he was in
Yeah,
a kind of pain.
he was. Yeah, and he was, and I think that pain came out when you were saying about iron the suture. That's where you started to see in the pain. But as I said, the first time I didn't quite pick it up. It was the second time that I watched it that I did find that he wasn't quite right straight away.
How about you, Marcelo? I know you touched
I
upon that was your favorite scene already, but any
yeah,
other thoughts on Q being unhinged or perhaps
yeah,
in
I
pain or
think
any theories?
yeah, I really like that Q in this interpretation is sort of unhinged and sort of supposedly sick, because although I like fun Q, promiscuous Q, play around Q, piss off Picard Q, I like Q's first appearance ever in Star Trek in Encounter at Farpoint very, very much, because there is a menace in his dialogue in his very very first appearance that I feel is kind of lost as he keeps guessing around all different types of Star Trek shows in the 90s. The writers took him down a more comedic path, and I didn't really want that. So I'm very very happy that he is back to basically don't mess with me Q. Whether he's sick or not, I do
The
like
menacing
Q.
Q.
Yeah, I do like Q a little bit more serious. I love him when he's funny, but I like him a little bit more serious.
When Q sees he's not getting any.
So you think?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, I was going to ask. So you think he's more of the Q from Encounter at Farpoint and that type of?
And also, what was the one with Riker? What's that one called? Q? Is it called Q Who or something like that? Where he converts Riker to a Q?
Isn't Q Who where he pushes them to meet the Borg for the first time?
There's so many Q episodes. Should this title have been called Q Penance? No, I'm just kidding.
But to answer Dadmiral for a second, I do think that this Q is more in line with the Q that we saw in Encounter on Farpoint. Just a little bit. Not totally there, but just a little bit.
This also might be the first episode where Q is in it and there's not Q in the title.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you think we'll get a Q title this season? We don't know all the episodes.
Isn't Death Wish?
Oh no, isn't there one called Quinn? Because there's a Q called Quinn.
Yeah,
is that the Death Wish one?
Yeah, that's the Q from.
That's the Voyager. That's the Voyager one where he wants to commit suicide. Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to.
And there's All Good Things,
which doesn't have Q in it. There you go. And also Q's not in Tapestry. There's no Q in Tapestry.
Okay, fine. I'll take it back. I just wanted to react to some of the comments.
Why do you gotta...
The complaint about the Borg Queen that I just had was about the Borg Queen that we saw in episode 1. If we want to keep this discussion to this episode,
one I'll be cosplaying.
Very, very, very pleased with the Borg Queen that we saw in this episode, in episode 2. Like I love her. Great.
The one that the one that I'll be cosplaying at. If any of you are at Star Trek Chicago, you can see Toddy angry standing next to me when I'm wearing it because he hates it so much. Toddy, I'm gonna need your help to operate my tentacles, though. I'm gonna need your help.
I'll be a tentacle guy. Okay.
Will you operate my tentacles?
I'll keep on slapping you in the face with them.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off. There's only a short amount of time. So my second cosplay option is just Starfleet Boy.
She was inspired by the Pike's, the thing that they put on Pike's head in that Short Treks episode.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Father says, I'm old enough to remember when people said the original Borg Queen was BS back in 1996. Borg shouldn't act like that. Yeah, there was a little... I do remember some of that controversy that happened when the Borg Queen was introduced, but I loved her from the start. Oh my god,
I don't like the Borg Queen as a concept.
Oh yeah, you said that. Yeah, that's right.
I love the acting and I love what they've done with it. I just think that it's a shame to try and humanize such a menacing and kind of faceless enemy. It takes away from the impact and the terror I think that the Hive is, to actually give it a leader and a physical person that you can talk to. I find it disappointing, but yeah, that's maybe just me.
Maybe we'll do a whole episode on the Borg Queen. I'm inspired now because we don't want to spend too much time on that Borg Queen from last week's episode. We will spend some time on this one though. Wow, the Borg Queen really triggered quite a conversation though, which is really exciting. So yeah, we'll try to get some of those comments. So when Q sees he's not getting anywhere with Jean-Luc, he resorts to violence, something we've never seen before, and while it jolts Jean-Luc into some compliance, it is completely unexpected. This is not a lesson, this is a penance, he tells him. The tone changes for a moment with the Edith Piaf song, Je ne regrette rien. Did I say that right? Can you say it, Toddy?
I feel like I'm complaining about every single thing. Americans feel it necessary to use only that song when anything French is involved. There are millions of other French songs, sung by thousands, hundreds of thousands of other French interprets. Every single film and every single TV show is always Edith Piaf Non, je ne regrette rien. C'est
Oh, I
always,
love how
always,
you
always,
say
always,
it.
always, always. It's like, god damn. Anyway,
I adore this song, by the way. I've been listening to it for. I forget what movie I first heard it in, but you're right. We
I
put it
agree.
was
It is a good,
it
like,
was a good
I
song,
got nothing
right?
against the song, right? Like, it's good.
Yeah,
It's just that they always default to this one.
and doesn't it? Isn't the rough
At
translation to
least it
some?
wasn't Frère Jacques, right? I guess. You know?
Don't we get that in Family? No, they don't sing for Jacques. Do they?
Not in family.
They sing something else,
they
which
sing
is
it
like
in Turbo
boom, 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 dun 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 dun
Let me
dun,
see.
boom, 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 dun 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 dun. I remember that part when they're
Yeah,
like,
Frere Jacques, nothing like that.
no, it's another song. I thought they did both in that episode, but I might be wrong. Um, but Toddy, the rough meaning to that song, isn't it something like "No Regrets" or something like that? Do you
Well,
recall?
the title is No, I Regret Nothing.
No, I regret nothing. So I think it's going to be. I think here it might be interestingly relevant. I don't know how yet, but I feel like this is the second time we heard the song. I feel like in episode one, we were all wondering. My initial theory was, oh, you hear that song because the Borg Queen's messing with systems and it just randomly plays. But the fact that Q brought it up in this episode makes me wonder if that's the moment. That little moment in episode one is like Q like announcing his presence in a way, and coming in and doing whatever he did to like break time, so to speak. So I think it's going to be an important thing. I hope we don't
Q
hear it
is
like
Edith Piaf. He has always
Je suis Edith Piaf, non Q. But anyways, so. Q snaps his finger again, and a bit like Dante, he begins to show Jean-Luc an unrecognizable version of himself. Chateau Picard is no longer a quaint treasure trove of JL's life of accomplishments and meaning, but now a horror show, at least to us, of trophies of adversaries and their people vanquished. The chateau isn't filled with a friendly, loving staff, but frightened Romulan slaves. We see the we see the Enterprise now called the World Raiser, looking like a behemoth, menacing warship. What what the hell is what is this hellhole, Q? What'd you guys think of all that wonderful? I know if Toddy were still doing his Easter egg videos, he'd have a lot of work ahead of a lot of work ahead of him. But what did you all think about this whole scene? Why don't you go first, Ian?
I thought it was a very stark contrast of what was before Captain's Day. I mean, everything about the Federation primarily is about peace and exploration. This is obviously it's about conquest with the Confederation. So they did have the shock factor, and obviously, when you look around the place, it was all swords, it was all confrontation. There was, there's some paintings there that with a was it with a tiger and a snake that was on there as well.
Yeah, totally.
Because I've seen a couple of videos as well. Yeah, it was basically it's a trophy room, isn't it, for the conquest of other alien races. Because obviously we go into it later. You go into the room, you've got Goldacott, you've got Martok, you've got Sarek, all the skulls, even the Borg. Which I found was quite interesting to see the Borg implant actually fused into the skull.
Which I think
really quite interesting.
We've seen it before, like I think on Voyager or TNG, but yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see that.
That would kind of explain why like Seven hasn't fully been able to remove like all of her implants. Like maybe that one, the one that she has there, is like completely fused into her skull, and now it's like connecting with her brain, literally.
But I think seeing that skull really did make. I think it brought it more to life, if for want of a better phrase, to me. But yeah, that was it, and also interesting to see the Ferengi skull as well, because you always think it's just the way their ears are. You think it's just sort of like our ears are gristle and everything, but they make it more calcium and more bony. Although seeing those skulls was really, really interesting to me.
And more than that, these are characters we all know and love. Q points out that
Yeah.
it's like Gul Dukat, and he doesn't say Grand Nagus Zek, but I'm gonna assume it's Grand Nagus Zek.
There is, yeah, but there is the actual Grand Nagus
Yeah,
stick,
the staff. Yeah, depending
staff,
when it
whatever
happened, it
the
could be.
staff.
Yeah, and depending when it happened and
Yeah.
what events happened in this timeline, it could be Grand Nagus Rom or Grand Nagus Quark. Like it could be any Grand Nagus, but I'm gonna assume it's
It's
poor
just a
Zek.
Ferengi, yeah.
But he
Yeah.
points out Sarek. Sarek was killed in front of his family and on the steps of,
His family's
some place on Vulcan. And who else? Someone pointed out. I think it was Fathery on Text Trek. Shout out to Text Trek again. That Worf's Baldric is in the background. So at some point, that whole "if you were any other man, I'd kill you where you stand" turns out to be that Jean-Luc kills him. So yeah, really dark stuff. Robbie,
So
any
the one
thoughts
question
on... Oh, sure.
I was going to say, the one question for everybody is, it's his son, so everybody assumes it's Spock, but it would be pure Vulcan. It wouldn't be.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah,
'cause Spock is.
yeah,
half
Amanda
so,
may
Vulcan.
not
so
have...
it's Cyborg.
Cybok. Oh wow,
Could be
that's...
Cyborg. Yeah,
It could be
everybody's
Cybok. It's a
assumed
good
it's
theory.
Spock, but it could be Cyborg.
Oh my
And
gosh,
Burnham
I
doesn't
would...
exist in that reality.
not
At
in
least
that not in
not,
that sense. Yeah, she's
not
off doing
as we
something
know
else.
her.
But we've
Yeah.
seen Mirror Burnham, and so we know she was probably very evil in this in this
Yeah,
world
actually,
as well.
yeah, that's what happened. Her parents were like xenophobic, horrible people, and she grew up to be like a general as well.
It actually shows how you can take these brilliant minds that we all know, and if they were just if their purpose was not exploration or diplomacy or all those nice things, like, and their purpose was conquest, look at they would still be very accomplished in their times, but just towards very evil and dark ends. Robbie, any thoughts
It
on...
was Grand Nagus Brunt.
Oh, it was
I,
Brunt.
I agree with that comment.
Go ahead, Robbie, if you have any thoughts on this scene.
I think it was just nice hearing, the showrunner also obviously has a lot of love for Star Trek, with yesterday's Enterprise and Through a Mirror Darkly, but darker still, all these nuggets. And then seeing the skulls, it was pretty dark, it was pretty gruesome. I think it was Dave Blass, I think he said on Twitter that originally it was going to be just the armor, but then they thought, let's go darker, let's make it skulls. I think that Q's interesting because I like the jovial Q and the more serious menacing Q, but I think the menacing Q does make things a little more interesting, and I hope there's a good reason for why Q's acting this way and it's something impactful. Another interesting mystery.
Right on. Any more thoughts, Toddy or Marcelo?
Yeah, I loved fake Picard's trophy room with all the heads. Like when I realized who that Cardassian was, that's when I lost my shit. I was in my room, and when I saw who that Cardassian's head was, I jumped up, and the people who had living in my house with me they ran to my room going, what's the matter with you? And I'm they're like, oh, he's just watching Star Trek. He's a loser. So, yeah, that's my family. And that's what they think about Star Trek. But I loved that Terra Mentalis did that and decided to go with skulls instead of armor, because I do think that's way more effective. I tend to, like I just said a couple minutes ago, I like the darker stories that are being told in Star Trek for the most part. And I like darker stories for the most part. So I really, really like the fact that by seeing that scene, we saw how different this reality is to the reality that we started in for the first place. So I like the scene very, very much.
Blue Sparrow says, Marcelo, we are your family. We love it. So yeah, we're also your
you.
family, and we love it that you
you.
watch Star Trek. So,
I love you guys too.
Jill says, I think Q is looking out for humans here in his last day. There's a theory going around that Q's on his last days. I hope that's not the case, but also Picard has a tradition of bringing back legacy characters to kill them off. So maybe we are going to see the death of Q. Who knows?
I think they're also going back. I think they're going back to Discovery as well, because in Discovery, Vance actually says that we've not had any contact with the Q Continuum for quite some
that's a
time.
really good point. Yeah, that is true. He says but he says in the last 150 years or something like that, maybe, or I don't know. I don't remember what he says, but it seems like yes.
Yeah, it's a long time that any of the Q Continuum has had any contact. So it could be harking back to that comment as well.
Sean would have caught that if he was enjoying Discovery, but unfortunately he's not. So he totally missed it.
I didn't trash talk the show at all.
No, it's okay. You can.
I'm here to praise Picard. I'm enjoying this season.
It had to be me to bring back the Vance, to bring it back to Vance for at least one.
Yeah, I like that.
Let
You're
it be known that Admiral Vance is one of my favorite characters on
I know,
Discovery.
it's true.
I think he's awesome.
Here we go. Father is saying that I believe Vance said the last contact with Q was the 26th century. So
it is a very long time since they've talked to him, but it still is a while after what we're seeing now.
Yeah, but maybe the events of this will indicate something that's happening.
It might
in the
cripple
continuum.
the continuum in some sense.
In some sense, or something like that. Yeah, or if Q is the one that broke time, maybe that's why he's. Something's happening with him. It was maybe he stretched his powers a little too far, perhaps. Because in the past we've kind of been always wondering: is it an illusion or is it really?
It's his son. It's his son that's screwing shit up.
Oh yeah, where's Q's son? That's a good point. Well, I don't know the resolution because I never finished Voyager, but I will finish it at some point. But yeah. Anyway,
I'm gonna die, and my children are gonna bury me, and you're still not gonna be done with Voyager.
Yeah,
well, maybe Q actually, or maybe the Q Continuum is gone. Maybe that's why Q is dying. Maybe he needed the Q Continuum to keep existing, and now that they're not around for whatever particular reason, maybe that's why he's dying.
And Father reminds us that Q's in season 3, according to John Delancey. So this Q story.
He was shooting something earlier this year. Could it be possible, last minute reshoots for this season?
Could be also, yeah. It's a good point.
They did season 2 and season 3 back to back, didn't they?
Oh,
they did the filming of those back to back as well.
If I remember correctly, there was an article a couple of months back that I read, and John Delancey said he was in 6 episodes, 3, I'm assuming, of season 2 and 3 of the next season.
Okay. That's interesting.
I do feel like only one more episode left in this season.
I do feel like season 3 is going to be a big resolution and a big bookend for I guess TNG with Picard as a whole. I really do think that's what they're going to do.
I wrote down this other quote. I mean, it's so juicy, their whole dialogue in these scenes, but I really liked when Q kind of pleads and says, "This is the only life you understand. Shall we see what else has been lost in the wake of your fear? Now you are welcome to remain here in the body of a madman, in the world of a madman, to attempt, like Macbeth, to wash the blood from your hands. But I assure you, Jean-Luc, it is unwashable. Or atonement, maybe even forgiveness." And Jean-Luc kind of refuses Q's proposition here and decides to choose his own way out of the situation, which is good because you don't want to fall for Q's tricks, I guess. And his own path, I guess, we'll see towards whatever this redemption that he needs is going to be. But what theories do you guys have on what the hell Q's talking about? Jean-Luc seems to understand what Q might be referring to, but he doesn't say it. He just kind of pauses for a moment. But yeah, where do you think the show is going to take us as far as this unwashable sin in Jean-Luc's past that he has to atone for, or to pay a penance for?
I think it's going to show us that the great Admiral Picard has some skeletons in his closet that we don't know about, and it's going to show us something similar as to the decision that Cisco had to make. Um, and it's going to make us, if I'm right, it's going to make us look at John Luke a little differently. It's going to make us not look at him as the perfect Starfleet officer. I think he's got one big secret that nobody knows about except him. And for whatever reason, Q is bringing it up now. You know what he wants to accomplish by making Jean Luc realize this. I have no idea, but I do think that there's something about Jean-Luc Picard that we don't know.
He likes his tea cold all this time. He's been lying.
Jill,
he nearly killed Jack Crusher.
Jill's got a theory.
That was my first thought. I was like, he actually went out of his way. He pulled it. He went out and murdered the guy because he wanted Beverly, but he never managed. Then he could never forgive himself for what he did, and that's why he never got with her.
Jill says the great sin is initiating the self-destruct and screwing up Q's plan to help humanity. Oh, interesting.
I feel like Q might be... I could be completely wrong here, but I think Q isn't actually blaming Picard, but he's blaming humanity for some... I don't know why he's coming back to Picard unless it's because he seems to blame Picard or trial Picard for humanity quite a lot. But I think he's trying to get through to him that maybe this synthetic body isn't a good way to live, and in this alternate timeline, maybe it thrives on synths and synth golem bodies even. Because I'm just assuming because they have at least in this episode, Brent Spiner was voicing a Soong that seemed to be a statue, and I feel like maybe a Soong kind of used the golems to maintain power in this horrible past. I don't know.
I get the impression that's an interesting theory, but I'm just going to change it to the F8 units, the Harvey, the robots the androids that we see.
So unnerving.
Because I know this is like our worst night. This is Guinan's worst nightmare that she said in Measure of a Man. Only because as a golem, I think Picard is still unique in this timeline as well. Like there aren't like a ton of these like golems running around. I don't remember his name, but he worked with Shaka, our friend Shaka, Star Trek Picard actor. Yeah, he's really creepy.
He's in every scene too. Like he's the one he's doing the most acting in the entire show. Because he interacts with every character.
Well, because there's a Harvey in every
model, right?
Yeah, there's a Harvey in every.
I don't know. I'm creeped out by him.
He's super creepy. It's true. I like him, but yeah, that's interesting, Robbie. Very cool. Any other thoughts on that in particular about? I wonder if the thing that he's covering up is shame, some kind of shame about his childhood and like. Because we get hints of like an abusive relationship between his mother and his father, and some kind of dark past. So I'm gonna say for me that it's around there. Marcelo, you were trying to say something?
What if? Because do we know what happened to Picard's dad? Do we know anything about him at all?
I guess we get a couple of references to Maurice Picard in Family, but also I forget the name of the episode. No, it's Tapestry. Also, he appears, right, or something like that. Okay. Anyways, he just seems like a mean old SOB in general because
he killed his dad to protect his mom.
Okay. Do we know? Do we know if he died or not, or when he died?
I don't think we have that information in terms of canon. I don't know if that's been on screen.
I think it's in beta canon. It's in the biography, isn't it? I can't remember.
Okay. What about this? What if Picard? What if they threw out beta canon? What if they just said Picard was the one that killed his father when he was really young because he was beating on his mother, and maybe that's his great shame? I
don't think he would have killed him intentionally. I hope not. But definitely, like, it could have happened in a mistake. Yeah, like he's trying in self-defense. There is a little quick spoiler. No, it's not a spoiler. In those scenes where stuff is going on in his past when he's remembering, it looks like he's grabbing Maurice from running out the door at one point. So maybe a scuffle something had occurred. But that's interesting, yeah. And I think Dave, I think it was Dave on Text Trek who also came up with a similar theory. You can tell I finally listened to Text Trek. I missed it on Friday when it aired, but yeah. So that's an interesting theory. I think that might be the case. But yeah, Picard was definitely afraid of his dad. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they end up showing us about this.
Can I say one more thing on
Absolutely,
Q?
you can say as many more things as you want, but yeah.
I think it would be interesting if maybe this is a dark ending, but I think it would be interesting if maybe this season is Q confronting Picard's past. I don't really know where that's going, and I'm not going to speculate. I'm just going to let it wash over me. But I think it would be interesting if Picard realizes that this golem body is just. No, actually, that wouldn't work. I completely forgot that the golem body is going to die at his normal age, isn't it? I was thinking.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I was thinking.
just the way you want to think of it is there's nothing different about Picard except that he no longer has the advanced aromatic syndrome, and he no longer has a fake heart. Otherwise, it's the golem body is just like it's a synthetic body, but
He
it works
does.
just.
He does have a fake heart.
No,
It's
no,
all
it's
fake now.
it's now it's like I mean it's
Mechanical.
synthetically grown, but it's a heart. It's like a heart that you would have. In other words, a scan wouldn't be able to tell you it's synthetic, except for the fact that you
Are you
wouldn't
sure
see.
about
His entire body synthetic.
Well, you wouldn't see from a
If you scan
from
him,
like
you see that nothing is real, right?
no, you would see that it does. You would see that perhaps he doesn't have his genes from his mom and dad, but it's the body itself will be it will show up as real. Like the heart shows up as like a muscle. Like everything's like it's just
He doesn't
synthetically.
beep at the
Let me
end.
give you a like a real kind of here's the example I think that makes the most sense is that like it's like you know how they're trying to grow meat in the lab now so you don't have to kill animals. So that meat's real. It just never was alive, like in that sense. So that's what it never was born or whatever. But that's what Picard is. He's a slab of meat that was never born. Like or whatever. He's a slab of meat.
They call it cultured meat. 'Cause that sounds bitter. So it's cultured Picard.
Yeah.
There you go. I like that. Yeah, he's the
I
cultured
do have
instead.
one more thing I would like to see, but I'm never going to see it because I think it's too violent for Star Trek. I would like to see Q get really mad at someone and just go like this, and their skin be peeled off in front of us. Like,
Oh my god,
like,
that
that
is
would be
really dope.
Very
that would be
specific.
really cool.
You can tell someone likes the horror genre here.
I thought I was going to say
It's true.
explode or something.
We're just going back to season 1 of TNG. aren't we,
Yeah,
really?
it's true. I mean, that's true. That's true. Well, the
See,
nightmare. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. See the last episode, I was thinking when Q showed up, because Picard has just had it all with last season and the Romulan refugee crisis, but I was thinking it would be kind of funny if Picard had just put his finger up as soon as Q appears, just like I'm done with you.
Well, the nightmare continues as Jean-Luc discovers who this version of himself is, watching twisted and distorted versions of speeches. The famous "Space, the Final Frontier" speech is completely, awful now, like evil. His great intellect and mind are no longer used for exploration and diplomacy, but toward evil and wicked ends. He asks for Laris and Jaban and discovers that they were murdered at the gates of Romulus, no doubt by an extension of his hand, if not his own. We learn that it is Eradication Day, the Confederation equivalent of First Contact Day, perhaps, and that Jean-Luc, Last Contact Day, I guess, is what it's more like, and and then we switch to next to Seven of Nine, also waking up to discover something is off. She conducts a series of reality tests and begins to piece together what is different about this reality, and we find that she's landed into the position of president of the Confederation, and her husband, the magistrate, is like her chief of staff. She finds mention of Rios in some log files and asks to contact him, and we find Rios as part of what looks to be the final battle in the conquest of Vulcan. Once she cautiously determines it's him and he her, they are relieved, and she recalls him to Earth, hoping to have an ally in this nightmare. We are then shown that not all is fully controlled in this version of events. There are insurgencies on Earth. Specifically, we see them in Okinawa and are reunited with Elnor and Rafi, who were together on Excelsior during the Cataclysm in the previous timeline. We're then reunited with Agnes Girardi and get some levity with her trying to figure out what's going on while not tipping her hand to the magistrate. We find out that the species being eradicated today is the Borg, and we find that the Confederation has pruned down the entire collective to just the Queen. Every different version, although familiar, a very different version, although familiar from the one we saw on the Stargazer. Familiar in her appearance and totally alone and afraid, something we've never seen. She drops a bunch of mysterious lines about the way things are or ought to be, and we discover she has a special ability to connect to versions of herself across different universes, giving her an interesting perspective. And anyways, the Motley Crew, by some insane coincidences, are finally reunited, and we find that out that this is not a different world or universe, but our own world, the Prime timeline, corrupted and changed. What do you guys think of those whole sequences of bringing everyone together?
I love that. And I did postulate this on one of our earlier discussions about this episode. Did it bother anyone in the panel that I wouldn't have given a damn if Good Picard would have pulled the trigger and killed the last remaining Borg in this corrupted timeline? Because I don't care.
Well, we need her.
Yeah,
but
I just want to say, if they didn't need her, would it have bothered you if Picard would have blown her brains out?
yes.
As long as they fix the timeline.
Oh.
It would have bothered me. It's just not. I feel like justice is like. I know what you mean. I hate.
It means that nothing matters because it's a timeline. I would have not liked it though because it would have been out of character for who Picard is.
No, but the other thing that I liked about this episode was Girardi's levity in this episode, because most of you know, who have been watching me on these discussions for a while, I was not pleased with season 1 of Picard, and I thought that Girardi was a little bit uneven and too much doom and gloom, and I like that Terry Matalas and Akiva Goldsman are lighting her up this season, and they're making her kind of fun and bubbly. I really did enjoy that. I liked Seven being the president, and I just really like that stuff.
Toddy, what did you think of this? Go ahead, Admiral.
I was going to say, and with Marcelo, I would have. I think for me, we would have been. What's the word I'm looking for? Not surprised if it had been Seven that killed the Borg Queen. As opposed to Picard. I think because of everything that happened to her, I think it would have been more her that would have done it than Picard, because we know the way Picard is. Whereas Seven is a little bit more ruthless. She has that sort of separation with her emotions a bit more. So I would have been more surprised if it was Picard, less surprised if it was Seven.
She would have been the more logical choice, because she doesn't. Her morality filter is a little bit more easygoing than Picard's filter is, because Picard has always been, no, this is the right way, and Seven is like, I don't care. If I want to kill somebody, I'll kill somebody.
I think the going way back is she was very Borg-like. Right. When she first woke up, she's going like pain receptors, scent receptors, and all that type, and writing the equation on the mirror. I thought that was very much in keeping with who Seven is, not Annika.
Yes, I agree. That was one of my favorite moments of the entire episode. It just, like, I know it's horrible to say this, but Seven's never really been human. She's never really regained her humanity. She's always been Borg, and I know it's horrible because she's no longer Borg. But I feel like where Picard clearly has like trauma, but he's regained his full humanity. Seven, just the fact that she defaults to like these almost data-like programmings, like she's checking if she has pain receptors, she's trying to run, like she's basically running diagnostics, which is something that we don't do, and it's not just a cultural thing, you know what I mean? It's really like the way she's kind of programmed. I think that was really, really, really good. I like that a lot. Yeah. I do think it's a bit plot convenient-y to have her as, or any of the characters as like the president, because it enables them to, you know, kind of be able to get in contact easier. But I let it slide because having them all come together and meet each other, I think was fun, and it was pretty well done. It was pretty organic, I think.
I think. being the president, is she just more of a figurehead? Because it seems to me that the magistrate had more power
Well, I
than the
think
president.
I think the before R7 inhabits the seven, I think she was very different, and that's why the magistrate kind of steps in, is because he starts to
Yeah.
see. I think he starts to see like, oh, this is not my this is not my
She-
seven. She hasn't whipped me today.
She's not very
She,
discreet.
she
Like
hasn't
in
kicked
the
me in
way.
the chin today. You know, like what's
I'm sorry, but
going?
Seven didn't put much effort into like embodying another character. Like maybe Jean-Luc Picard is a better actor than Seven of Nine is, but she's always update me on this, tell me that. It's like, could you at least try and pretend to be the person that you're embodying so that like your husband doesn't think something's up?
Yeah, and just a quick word on her husband. I've already said it in this stream, but he's a little mousey's boy that I just want to see get shot by someone.
Wow,
Oh my god.
so much
I think we've
anger.
left him behind though. I think we're leaving.
Yeah, I don't.
I think we're
Well,
leaving
okay,
this
okay.
whole
I mean,
thing.
we're gonna see him at least in the beginning of next episode because your quote unquote mousy person turns into a lion at the end, or a snake perhaps.
I have two major questions, by the way. About
Sure, go
this.
ahead, go ahead.
Unless did Robbie want to say
Yeah,
something?
Robbie, do you have
No.
any thoughts on this whole sequence that I talked about here?
I thought Eleanor was done a bit dirty. I mean, I don't find
Thank you.
his
Thank you. I didn't want to
storyline
be the only
particularly interesting.
Elnor stan. He was kind of he was cute though. I mean, and then also lethal, cute and lethal. That's his. That's what I'm going to say about Elnor from now on.
Yeah, I think saying that with Elnor, I'm quite liking the stepmother stroke stepson relationship between Raffi and Elnor, because she has that maternal instinct with him, because she's always checking that he's okay and all that stuff. So I actually quite like that as well. And the bits where she just said, like, shh, when he said, "Oh yeah, I remember that in your biography." Q, I remember that in biography. And she said, "Well, what about Alphabet Man? I don't, what we're going to do." So there are there's little bits in there. We saw it briefly in episode 1 and again in this one, where she has that maternal instinct with Elnor, which I quite like.
Also, I do like the fact that when Ralphie catches up with everyone else and realizes that Seven is married to this mousy boy, like she just has these like under the breath comments like, "Really, him? Of all the people that you could have chose, you chose him? Really?" So you could definitely see that there has been a history between Seven and Ralphie that we haven't seen yet. So as this season goes along, I'm really interested to see what their dynamic is going to be like moving forward.
You
Apparently,
pointed out something.
it's
Oh,
in
go ahead.
the radio play. It's alluded to in the radio play. This 1.5 hour
Yeah, the
radio
book,
play that's
the
got
book that
them.
just came out.
Yeah, that's come
Yeah,
out
I
there.
should.
Some of it is alluded. I haven't listened to it all yet.
Yeah,
But
I
it
should
does,
pick up.
is
Yeah,
alluded in there.
I should pick up the Audible version of the, because they did a regular book and they did an Audible version, so I just pick up the Audible version.
Yes, the audible one, because you do have obviously you've
Jerry
got the
Ryan
actors
Yeah,
Jerry Ryan and everything doing that. So yeah, I did
cool.
like it. I do quite like that the magistrate is actually played by Isa Brione's dad,
Really, I didn't know that.
which is
Yeah, John
yeah,
John. I think his name is John Briones.
John Briones is Isa Brione's dad.
Okay, so
yeah,
now I have a
absolutely.
little bit more respect for him.
Real quick, audience has a quick question for us, which is, I didn't get the impression that the magistrate shared the president's bedroom thoughts. Yeah, it looks like Annika's like, no, you go sleep in your quarters. I don't want to deal with you. Only for purposes.
I'm the queen. Oops, I mean
Yeah,
president.
the president. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Well, that's why I'm just wondering whether the president is more of a figurehead. I think maybe it is the magistrate that does wield the power.
Well, in
a little
any,
bit more.
I think again, we won't know because we don't know what it was like
They probably
before.
rule on equal
Yeah,
terms. I'd
but
like to
I have a feeling that like I don't see the intellect of Annika Hansen being a second fiddle or being manipulated in that way. I don't see that as a thing. So I think that he's taking advantage. He sees something's off and he's taken advantage, and that's what we're seeing here. But I don't think that's their usual dynamic. I think he's very
So
subservient.
you think
normally.
it's more of a power play by him
Yeah.
to grab more power?
Yeah, exactly. Also to save his empire because he's seeing something's wrong. She's not acting. None of them are acting the way that they should. they're doing irregular things, and so one thing it all kind of piles on, and then finally the escape happens, and so he that's when he sees his power, and you notice it's a presidential override that he uses. So he either took power when he either took command of the president's role at that point, or was able to use the codes to subdue the shields of the of La Serena. But yeah, lots of meaty stuff. Robbie, any thoughts on this overall sequence, like other than Elnor? One thing I wanted to point out about what you said is I really appreciated the wit being sprinkled into the intensity, with the quibs that Rafi makes, and the humor of Elnor and stuff like that. I thought that was very nice and very Star Trek in a way. It's like a tradition of Star Trek to have these witty remarks, like a Dr. McCoy, in any situation will say something witty or sarcastic or something. And so it was pretty funny.
My whole family, apart from my dad, is watching Picard, which is fantastic. But because they're not really into TNG or anything like that, but they're all watching this season. And when Raffi said, "Who's Q?" this Mr. Alphabet, or Alphabet Man, something like that, we just all laughed out loud. I think that was Raffi that said that.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this section.
Well, Picard comes face to face with the Queen, and we find that the change in the timeline originated in Los Angeles in 2024. The crew deliberate on a solution and realize that they will need the Borg Queen to travel back in time. Seven entices her with an offer to escape this futile reality and help restore them to at least the state they were in before. The Queen accepts, and our team move quickly toward their plan of using time warp to get back to the point of divergence, but it won't be easy as some complications develop, so they improvise and decide that they'll have a chance to escape at the Eradication Day ceremony. Everything is going to plan with great struggle, and just when they think they've gotten away with it, the magistrate beams aboard La Serena and shoots Elnor and threatens to punish Jean-Luc and everyone else severely. We're left to wonder what's next, and I'm worrying about Elnor, of course, because they totally shoot him dirty. So yeah, that's how the episode kind of ends. I know I kind of skirted through a lot of details, but fill in for us anything that you guys thought was interesting about all that, and I guess we can kind of speculate as to next week as well.
Yeah, well, I personally didn't give a damn whether or not Eleanor got shot because I'm not the biggest fan of Eleanor. So if Legolas dies, I don't care. I did think that Jean-Luc sort of stretching out his potential attempt to kill the Borg was a little bit ham-fisted. He could have gone up and tortured her with a pain stick or something, just to fill in the time to the point where they could all be beamed up to the La Serena. But I thought that was a little bit odd and awkward that he took so goddamn long to do something. I mean, we all knew that he wasn't going to shoot her. So if he would have gone, if he would have gone up to her with a pain stick or something, that would have been more sufficient. I guess, I don't know. I did find it a little shocking that Eleanor was that he was shot, but I have no doubt that he's gonna get fixable. I don't think he's gonna die.
Well, that's one of my big questions for you guys. Do we need Elnor this season? And
No.
are they just gonna? Do you guys think they're gonna kill him and then because he's not dead in real reality? This would be
this is
would be
dying Elnor looking at you.
This would
right
be
now.
this would be the Elnor that our Elnor is inhabiting that dies, right? If everything comes back to normal,
Yeah,
he will still be around.
We assume if he dies that there will be a reset. I had a theory. I wondered if he won't die, but he's so injured that he has to remain aboard La Serena to mind the Borg Queen, to kind of watch her. Because I can't. So they're going back to 2024. They're not going to be able to walk around with a Borg Queen everywhere, right? And we've seen in the past, whenever there's a Vulcan, they're usually made to cover their ears and stuff.
So at least they can take the Romulan out of the Earth equation of like the 2024.
Right, and not have any of that, and not have the usual kind of tropes of, even though they're funny and they always work, but not to have the usual tropes of them wearing beanies and stuff like that, so, or
I think with Elnor, it doesn't matter. He's got long hair, isn't he? So the hair would cover the
yeah,
ears.
but it can still show. I mean, who knows?
I think it would if Elnor was to die, which I doubt very much. I think that would screw Raffi up completely. It would really screw Raffi up.
That would be great.
No,
Yeah, she's already
I
freaking
want to get
out.
I want to get away from that kind of shit, to be honest.
Okay,
Though I will
alright.
say that the Star Trek in the past has been, when we go back to Earth, it's like, oh, it's in 1966. Oh, it's in what is it, like 1984? Oh, now this is 2024. If we all see a Romulan walking in the street, none of us will even look back. Like, we don't give a shit. Like, it's just a cosplay. Like, none of us care at this point. Like, now, if someone were like Cardassian in the street, it wouldn't worry me that it's an alien. I would just be like, oh, he likes Star Trek. You know what I mean? So I don't think they don't even need to disguise Elnor. Technically, they can just have him walk down the street.
As I said, but the thing is, though, he's going to have long hair, and we're used to seeing men with long hair. Where back in the 60s, they didn't have men.
Well, I mean,
they were starting to come in with the movement, but
I just think that doesn't work because the wind could blow, or someone could like say, you have really nice hair. Let me see your, like kind of do this one of these things, and like so.
And he'd just decapitate.
But
them,
I will say,
situation.
humans of today, that's Sean. Oh my god! But humans of today. But humans of today we are starting to
anymore.
We are starting
he
to
now. He's dead. He's grown.
Dang.
He's growing.
Dang, tell us how you really feel. But I mean, wow. The humans of today, we are starting to mess with or augment our bodies. There's underneath the dermal implants. So I mean, I don't think I would do this. But
I think the way to get it is you turn around and say, because they're calling him Legolas, you turn and say, oh, he's a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, and his ears to make him like an elf.
Yeah.
That's all you've got to say now.
There you go.
Yeah, they just give him a picture of Orlando Bloom to carry around all the time. That's it.
This is also interesting. Yeah, he could be cosplaying as an elf. You're right. That might be a funny gag as well. Yeah. That's really good. Josh Smith says, I wonder if they will inject Elnor with nanoprobes to save his life because he looks pretty hurt. That might be a possibility. The Queen might this is
Elnor is the Bull Queen.
Father, I would love that. Father says, I think Elnor will be dead until they fix time. Agnes will be the Borg sitter on the ship in 2024.
Yeah, I think she's going to be.
And then he's like Soji, Daj. Which one is the one that lived? Soji. Okay, she doesn't exist in this season. Like
they took her off the board, quote unquote, last episode.
Because I was out there saying she'll be the hero of Picard because Picard is too old to be a hero now. So they're gonna have she'll be the main character, but now they're just taking her out of the show completely.
The Borg Queen hints at someone called the Watcher or a Watcher in the past. So I think we're gonna see like Issa Briones and the actor who plays
Dr. Dre.
What?
Sorry. Dr.
The Watcher is. Oh, is that his nickname? I didn't know that.
No, he's got a song called The Watcher.
Oh, The Watcher. My rap ignorance is showing.
God.
I only listen to your rap songs, which I think also, by the way, it should have been your rap instead of Edith Piaf. That's a joke I stole from Fathery, by the way. So could you imagine? I'm gonna take my Worf to the hollow deck. but she says about this Watcher, and we see in the trailer that it's different people, so it might be able to manifest as different looking people, or it may seem like a different person. It's some kind of entity who maybe is a time guardian or something like that, or it could be Guinan. There's a lot of theories. What's that?
Guinan's
oh my god,
back to that.
Guinan's the listener. Guinan's not
the listener. But yeah, Cisco might be the Watcher. Who knows? I mean, if Favorite Books comes back, it's really insane.
Isn't this harking back to the Voyager episode with Harry Kim, where he's back on Earth? There was a guy called the Watcher, wasn't there? He was the coffee in the coffee shop.
Oh, was he called
Yes,
the
I think so,
Watcher?
yeah, yeah, he was the Watcher. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, are they gonna
He was
bring
a wa-
that guy in? Oh, oh.
I wonder.
You're
No,
bringing
but I
random
wonder,
people from
no, but
Voyager, no one
no,
from Deep
but
Space Nine.
no,
Eh?
but I wonder why it's a Watcher. Why can't it like be a traveler or something? Like
You already
another.
have a traveler.
I know.
Some folks, I
but-
think on
but-
Text Trek, I heard this too. Is some folks were speculating that maybe Wesley will be the Watcher, but who knows?
He can travel through time and space. He's like the Doctor, but he can travel through time and space. So it could be Wesley.
It could
See,
be Wesley. It's true.
I had a theory that I shared
The
with
Diviner.
Sohail. That there's a shot of a Vulcan in the trailer, and I was wondering if that Vulcan, because at least the top half of the Vulcan is covered in darkness, but the jaw looks very similar to, I can't remember his name, the Vulcan in Carbon Creek who stayed behind.
Be behind.
Yeah, because he would
Yeah.
still be here, because of his age, and he would kind of adapted to human culture. That might be a cool reference or an interesting.
Yeah, because wasn't it back in the 60s? Was it in the 60s?
Yeah,
Carbon,
it was
or was it the 50s? Carbon.
I think it was the late 50s, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know if it happened for real though. 1957, apparently.
Well, the story is being told
According
from
to Paul, right?
yeah, to Paul's grandmother. That's her story, but I believe that story. I think it happened, and I think that guy stuck
No,
around.
I think
on
she
Earth.
was just trolling Trip.
Jill the Watcher seems to appear as different genders if that character is the Watcher in the trailer. So it's the solid wide-eyed character. Robbie, any other thoughts on this, like on the final act of this episode, and any other ideas, or what are you guys anticipating or looking forward to? I'll just say that I'm excited about Time Warp. I want to see the new version of a Time Warp happening with the War Queen. I think that's going to be pretty epic to see.
Slingshot around the sun. Woo! Sorry.
I think it was Text Track that pointed out that when Picard was giving the speech, when he was, at the Eradication Day ceremony, it would have been quite cool to see him be very menacing and have like a big evil speech, one of the grand Picard speeches, except it's twisted and it's some evil Shakespearean quote before he has to just to buy time before he beams out.
Some more Macbeth, basically.
Yeah, more Macbeth. Yeah, Toddy and Marcelo. Any other thoughts on that, or Dadmiral?
Well, I just said it a couple seconds ago, but I am really excited to see what the new version of the Slingshot Around the Sun will be, because I guarantee you that it'll be really cool if they had like some tips of the cap to like the voyage home. Like if they said something that sort of referenced or sort of brought it back to something that Kirk said, or something that Bones said, or something that Spock said while they were thinking about how they were going to do that. That would be really cool for me. Also, I'm very curious to see how Raffi and Seven are going to act around one another, because I want to see how their relationship is going to move forward in the rest of the show, and I want to see how the Borg Queen is going to interact with everybody else.
Right on.
So those are the couple of things that I'm looking forward to.
Toddy, another thing Discovery canonizes is they say Vulcans observed humans for a century before making official contact. So it's possible that adventure did happen. So
Well, that was already like established in Enterprise before Discovery did it. Wasn't
no, I
it?
know, but you were saying you thought she was trolling Trip. So maybe that was the what they referred to in Disco might be that adventure.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Anything else, guys? We're gonna wrap it up. Otherwise, and audience, wow, well, lots of great theories and thoughts there.
Yeah, I actually quite liked. I think this episode out of all the latest one has the most callbacks to previous Trek that I feel. They talk about Kirk's Enterprise. Q saying Amira Darkly, yesterday's Enterprise.
Yeah,
Picard,
we didn't talk about
Sarek,
that, but yeah,
all,
you're right.
all,
You
Those
gotta
all
were
those
admit,
bits is. I think it's got all those bits. I think that's got to be the most in any of the latest Star Trek iterations that they've mentioned. I mean, except maybe Lower Decks has probably done a few more, but yeah, I did quite like that it was just every couple of minutes they were just dropping something else from classic Trek, which
It
I
was
Right
did
on.
cool
like.
that Picard, when he said, "Oh, Kirk's Enterprise did that," the way he said it was like he was a huge fanboy of Kirk.
Who wouldn't be? But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
it's true.
yeah, they've met, haven't they? So
Well, maybe Captain John Harriman's not as much of a fanboy after. No, I'm just kidding. He totally is as well. But yeah, Kirk's like, yeah, I love that too. I like that a lot.
I
I just want to say, people give Captain John Harriman a bad break, man. That guy didn't expect for that to happen on just a simple training cruise. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
What were you gonna say, Toddy?
no, I was gonna. My conclusion about this episode is that
Yeah, please.
I think it was actually pretty good. I enjoy, as I said earlier, I think that this maybe darker tone or like darker setting suits the contemporary writers a little more, so that they feel, I guess, more at home when they're writing stuff for this kind of setting. So I like that, and I don't know. Although this episode is clearly set up for where the season is going to lead and for how the story is going to unfold, it doesn't feel like, at least up until now, it doesn't feel like it's like dragging on or anything. Like I didn't feel like it was 3 episodes that they could have condensed into one. It really felt like this was an episode that, like, I guess everything that was in it had to happen, and it had a specific objective to lead us into like the future of the season.
Yeah, I mean it's a setup episode, and maybe the all of them, coming together was a little too coincidental. But we know that Q's at play here, so maybe Q made it all work somehow, and
That's fine.
so you can kind of like
I mean,
right away that.
he did say to Picard, "You're not doing this on your own."
Yeah,
So
yeah. I'll be
that,
there
that,
along
that
the
sets
way,
it up
exactly.
for the team.
I do also
I quite-
think, I do also think that having like adding the Borg Queen to like their little motley crew, like I think that losing Soji and losing Elnor, is not necessarily a bad thing specifically for like this season, but winning the Borg Queen, I think, is a good addition. It's like an interesting addition, I think, to the whole thing.
I agree. I was giggling not at you, but at this in the chat where Father's like, "We can slingshot around the sun." I knew a guy who rode horses and who a bridge fell on once, and he used to do that slingshot stuff all the time. Jill says, "I love the scenes with both Picard and Spock. I thought I might pass out from the awesomeness." And Bird of Prey 5 seemed to understand Euler's identity equation. Yeah, I saw that on Twitter as well, so very cool. I was doing a little research and I came upon this quote that I thought was apt from Macbeth. I forget the character at the moment who says it, but it's during the bubble, toil and trouble scene. If you can look into the seeds of time and say which grain will grow and which will not, that's like I think that's like definitely kind of sums up what's happening, is that someone looked into the seeds of time, and they may have made a grain that did not grow before grow, to make this world that we see before us. Gentlemen, I enjoyed this discussion so much. There's so much more to talk about Star Trek, but we definitely want to see what happens along in the story before we get too crazy with our speculations. So I think it's a good time to end the discussion. Will you guys let everyone know where you can be found on the internet so they can follow you? Why don't you go ahead and start, Robbie?
You can find me at Earl Grey Trekkie on YouTube, and I just posted a video on why Jellicoe is a good captain, and I've got a video related to Sisko's experience in Emissary coming up.
Absolutely. What about you, Ian? Where can folks find you?
Yeah, I can be found on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as Trek Cat Cat Cat. This week I've posted a number of videos from my time on the cruise, basically just giving you a tour of the ship. I've got
Very cool
one more
videos.
to do. Yeah, I've got one more to do, and then hopefully I'll get back to some more brick building again and doing some reviews on that. But
Yeah,
can be found on those three.
you've got the refit Enterprise to build, so that's
Yeah, I've got
exciting coming
this.
up.
I've got this one to build and do a review on, which is the start of licensed brick building. It's not Lego. It's not whatever. It's a company called Blue Bricks, based in Germany. So hopefully I'll start doing that again.
Right on. What about you, Marcelo? Where can folks find you, and what have you got going on?
Yeah, well, I have a lot of stuff going on. I have two podcasts. I have the Redwall podcast, which is my personal podcast. A brand new season of that podcast is going to start on April 6th, which is a Wednesday. I also have a podcast that comes out every Friday dedicated to J.J. Abrams and his greater Bad Robot universe. New episodes of that show drop every Friday. I also have a second YouTube channel that is dedicated to my podcast about J.J. Abrams. Episodes get uploaded to that second YouTube channel, which is Radio 815, every Monday. So I have a lot of stuff going on. But if you guys want to find links to everything that I do, just follow me on Twitter. I'm at CreekFanatic88.
Excellent. And Toddy, what's going on Trek on the Tube? Tell us all about what's new there.
Well, the latest video is an interview with Aaron Waltke.
Very cool video, by the way. Very, very cool. Yes.
You know, I had the honor and privilege of talking to one of the lead people behind the new Star Trek Prodigy show. So he's lead writer, he's co-executive producer at this point, and they're working on season 2. So we talk about a whole bunch of things, but we don't get into big spoilers and stuff because, you know, I there's no point in me asking him. He's not allowed to say anything anyway.
Yeah.
But, you know, I did my best to not be awkward and to ask him the right questions. I hope everyone enjoyed. So you can go check that out if you haven't.
And you guys got
It's a beast of a watch, though. It's almost 2 hours long.
It's really great, though. It looked like he was having fun the whole time. And also, we learned a lot more than just his Star Trek endeavors, which is really cool. And so, and you guys also put a spotlight on a very important issue. But I don't want to give away the whole chat. So everyone go check it out and give it a like and subscribe to Trek on the Tube and all these guys. And also, I just want to say that Fathery, thanks for being in the chat. Fathery runs Text Trek, and it's also an awesome Trek channel that you guys should all check out. And we do kind of like a joint venture together with TQIF on Fridays, and that's been fun.
It's a shared universe around.
It's a shared universe, exactly. I feel like we're a fleet. We all have our own starship, and we all get together for these like discussions, and we all share, and it's one big happy fleet, as Khan says. So I like that. So thank you, gentlemen. Starfleet Boy, you can find us here every week. Thursdays, we do a YouTube discussion for Star Trek Discovery, which will discontinue. So after that, we won't be doing any more Thursday night discussions on YouTube, but we will continue doing our Spaces event. It'll just move to a slightly earlier time, so more folks can tune in, and that'll be more of a reaction kind of discussion. And that one's fun because audience members can request to speak and just talk about what they thought of the episode, and we can share ideas that way as well. So check that out on Thursday nights after Discovery ends. And then the new Star Trek shows, we'll talk about them on Sundays. It actually works better for me because it's my day off, so I don't have to rush home from work or anything like that to try to make it so. Saturdays, we're still continuing our TOS journey, so check us out there at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I think I covered everything, so live long. It's a lot of streams, I know. Sorry, guys. But, pick your flavor and come to the ones you can.
There's actually another stream you're going to do this week that you don't even know about yet.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's cool. Toddy will let me know. Anyways, thank you so much. Can we hang out in Spaces Without Speaking? Yes, you can, Jill. And it's recorded, so you can go and listen to the ones you missed, so you can hear Marcelo's thoughts on there. So
on 7 of 9, because I have a lot about her. Sorry.
Yeah, he definitely does. Anyways, thank you guys. Live long and prosper, and we'll